Hello and welcome to another installment of the Wyfutbol podcast with me, Michael Dryden and Etches Adokwu. Today I am very pleased to say we are joined by Jon Radcliffe. Jon is a co-founder of Bundesliga Diaries, a weekly podcast and blog on all things German football. So Jon, welcome to the show. Firstly, how are you? And secondly, I read on your Twitter you're a Chelsea fan. So are you very sad about Jamal Musiala or just very happy he's playing in the Bundesliga?
Yeah, first and foremost, cheers for having me on the pod. Um, yeah, but it's looking like a blunder now, isn't it? Allowing Musiala to leave. The impression that I got though is that he was really eager to go back to Bayern anyway. I don't think that it was so much about Chelsea like kind of let him go. It was more that he kind of wanted to go back. So fair enough. It's been a great decision, clearly. He's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm probably more disappointed about the fact that he's chosen to play for Germany than England, really.
Well, I see this, a few people, say the same thing, but a lot of people comment on, oh yeah, why did Chelsea let him go? Which is quite obviously an easy commentary to make without knowing the actual facts behind the story. And they actually also have, you know, Chelsea have such a large number of players in their roster, usually from the academy, and have done over the years. So I mean, it's always going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's some players who kind of left and gone on to do other things. Panzo, I remember he went to Monaco. I've forgotten where he is now, but he was another one that kind of did well initially, leaving Chelsea as a young lad. So yeah, it's kind of things that happen, and some will make it, some won't.
Mm.
It's not always just down to. I mean, I know it's kind of a good narrative that Chelsea don't really like look after the young lads, at least when they're at senior level. But at least now we are seeing some of them in the Chelsea team. With Mount, Abraham, Reece James, etc. So yeah, like players are going to go and succeed elsewhere. That
Yeah.
also goes with the territory of having a really good youth system as well. I think.
Mm.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's a pretty good point there. So kind of to move things on to Bayern Munich. So I watched them bulldozer Lazio. Even though Lazio were unfortunate, they had I don't know, it should really have been a penalty, but it didn't go for them. And then obviously Bayern turned the screw. Leroy Sané sent someone to the chip shop midway through for their goal. And Musiala, as you mentioned before, had a well-taken finish as well. And the question I kind of had to you is, they're leading the Bundesliga by 2 points as well. But have Bayern been even better this season, in your opinion, than last year, or have they fallen a bit below that?
To be honest, I would say they're definitely worse than they were last year. At the end of the day, the table doesn't lie. They are top of the league. They have been the best team in the league. A lot of that is down to a great mentality that Bayern have. It's the thing that differentiates themselves or distinguishes them from the other teams that have the quality to perhaps win the Bundesliga, but the mentality just isn't there. And Bayern, when they find themselves in difficult positions, generally still come through at the end. And that's what they've done for years. In terms of how they've played, though, I mean, they haven't battered many teams in the Bundesliga at all, really. They lost at the weekend against Eintracht Frankfurt. They lost to Mönchengladbach when they were 2-0 up as well at the start of the year. They drew 1-1 with Augsburg. I'm sorry, they beat Augsburg 1-0. Augsburg missed a penalty in that game. They've drawn against Bremen, who were at the wrong end of the table. They drew against Bielefeld, who were in 16th place. So they haven't really hammered anyone. And there was a run of games where they went behind in like 9 in a row. They conceded the first goal. But over and over again, they have the mentality, and they do have the quality, of course. When you've got players like Lewandowski, Muller, Sané, at the end of the day, you will create chances and score goals because of the players that you have. But yeah, this team is not as good as it was last year. That doesn't mean it's a poor team. It just means that it's hard to match the standards of winning the treble.
Yeah, I saw the highlights of the Frankfurt game. How is Choupo-Moting still playing at this level? I just don't understand. I just don't understand how he's come from Stoke to play for PSG and then Bayern. But I saw the highlights of that game. Sane was excellent in the end, came through with the assist. But the Eunice goal was an absolute rocket as well. And Frankfurt seem to be doing so well as well. I mean, there's 5 wins in the straight, but yeah, it's a good point you made there, Bayern. But I just don't get how Choupo's still getting a game.
Yeah. I think he's just one of those players who like his ambitions aren't like over the top. He's a decent player. He is decent, and he's happy to play like 5, 10 games a season. He isn't going to like demand more. He won't demand more money. He's not going to cause unrest. He's happy to be there. I think sometimes having one or two of those players who are never going to look for more, it can be all right, you know.
Like Martin Braithwaite of Bayern.
Yeah, exactly. He's another one in the same situation. Yeah.
Yeah, two players not offering too much on the pitch, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't mind just being in that type of company. I think would be pretty chilled for them. Um, so obviously Bayern recently signed Upamecano for 38 million from Leipzig, and the perception that we get generally watching football, in particular me, because I'm an Arsenal fan, and we spend ridiculous fees on rubbish players. Bayern seem to collectively pick up players from rivals for relatively cheap. So on this list, I've got Lewandowski, who is for free. We've got Goetze from Dortmund for 33 million. Hummels, the same club, for 31 million. Leon Goretzka, free. Kimmich from 7 million from Stuttgart. Schüller from Hoffenheim, 18 million. Pavard, 31 million. Serge Gnabry, 7 million. You know, even Neuer back in 2011, 27 million. If you throw in the likes of people like Sebastian Rudy and Cuisance as well, is that, you know, the question I kind of have is, how is Bayern's pulling power so strong for these German talents? Because it's not really that seen elsewhere in other leagues, or it is, but there's multiple players, where Germany, it just seems like they all were just hoovered up by this one big club.
Yeah, I think probably the main thing is that Bayern are in I guess, an unusual position, is that they do play in a good league, and the Bundesliga is a good quality league across the board. And that the German talent system and the academy system is one of the best in Europe. You know, they've kind of revamped it, you know, state and the DFB centered structure since like, Euro 2000. Really, after that, there was kind of a whole change in structure. So
Yeah.
the level of like the academies and the education that they get is probably one of the best in Europe. But Bayern are financially so much bigger and so much better than all of the other teams that 30 million for the players that we're talking about. If it was in England, maybe they would be 60 million players, but it's Germany, so they're half the money, and Bayern can easily pay that, and they just hoover up all of the best talent. You don't see Bayern generally going out to other countries and spending a lot of money on star players from there. They will do it every now and again, you know. If you look at, you know, maybe probably not now, but Frank Ribery and Ian Robin, for example, were players they picked up and were great for them for years. I mean, I wouldn't even include Leroy Sané because he had a really long injury, didn't have too long left on his contract either, and he's German as well, so probably pushing for a move to Bayern.
Yeah.
So, they're in the unusual position of playing in a good league and being able to just pick up all of the best talent, really, over and over again, which is a shame for the Bundesliga because it is a great league. If you took Bayern out of the equation, it would be, one of the most competitive in Europe. It is, but they are just, well, they won the Champions League last year. You know what I mean? So it's not the only dominant just in Germany.
Yeah, I saw a stat. I think I read this stat quite a while ago, actually, but it was that Bayern haven't fallen out of the top four in the 21st century, which is a bit of a mad stat. And I mean, there was big teams in England that have, you know, we've had obviously we've had a few teams flop, Arsenal being one of them. But obviously, as you say, I mean, it's become, and my point is that because they've been at the top for so long, and then even obviously before that, well before the turn of the millennium, it's a lot of players. They've also become like an institution in Germany. Has become like a center of excellence to go to at that stage in your career if you're a German player. I mean, one stat, as you always love talking about, is the Serge Gnabry deal. Where which club did he go to prior? Was it Stuttgart or Schalke? And then after a season, they went straight to Bayern.
Yeah, he was at Bremen. He was at Bremen, and then he went to Bayern. I think they loaned him out to Hoffenheim. Then he went back and ended up being, what he is now.
Yeah, it almost seems inevitable that he was then going to go if he reached a certain caliber, was then going to go on to Bayern. I think that almost probably speaks true for all these players that eventually get hoovered up by Bayern.
Yeah.
Yeah, a follow-up question on that as well is, do you think, you mentioned before about if it's an English club, it's 60 million, and I do think there are some clubs in England, United being one of them, that tend to, when they go in for a player, you look at Amad Diallo, played 2 senior games and has cost £38 million. Do you think that when Bayern knock on the door, there's this pull for German clubs that they can't really demand the 60 million or 70 million fees that English clubs could afford? Because Bayern can definitely afford them. I mean, we've got Hernandez here, who was about 70 million, but it specifically seems when it's within the Bundesliga, Bayern just have this power, which is just like, you'll sell them to us for free, and they're like, okay, we'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, definitely. 30 million to a Bundesliga club is a lot of money, and they can do a lot with that. Whereas in England, it's not an insignificant amount of money, but it doesn't get you anywhere near as far as it would in Germany. There's that. I think I don't want to start going around saying that Bayern are tapping up players all over the place, but if you look at the players who leave for free and end up going to Bayern, and it happens more on enough occasions that it's suspect. I mean, not suspect, but it's there's clearly some kind of plan or working behind the scenes here a little bit that they're able to kind of get these deals sorted quite early on. So, I mean, yeah, I think certainly the money, as you say, is correct. I also think that Bayern's web is large, let's say.
Yeah, no, that was kind of my follow-up question, which we kind of touched on earlier. Is you're looking at Serge Gnabry, which he had a 4-year deal wherever he moved to originally at Bremen, as you mentioned earlier, and then was sold to Bayern for 7 million, which doesn't actually make that much sense. I think he scored 9 or 10 goals in his first season, and with a 4-year deal, yet costs so little. Obviously, you've got the likes of Goretzka, who went for free, Lewandowski, who went for free, even something like Nicolas Schüler, 18 million from Hoffenheim. Kimmich, not so much because he was quite young at the time, but it is quite crazy, some of the fees that these players are moving for. Just not even for the fees themselves, but compared to the market, right? I mean, you're looking at someone of Goretzka's caliber at the club he's at, and that's the equivalent of, I don't know, can't think of an example now, but let's say Maddison opting to, or maybe not Maddison, but let's say a midfielder like Maddison saying, I'm going to pack my bags up now and go to City for free, which is crazy. But the question I have for you is, do you think it makes the Bundesliga anti-competitive?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, certainly at the top it does. Bayern have won 8 league titles in a row, so it doesn't help in terms of the title race. Certainly, I think below that, probably not, because all of the teams are in the same situation as they can't compete with Bayern, so they're all losing players to Bayern. Yeah. But they're almost kind of all on the same playing field. I mean, Bayern do it to Dortmund and Leipzig. At the end of the day, Dortmund do it to Leverkusen and Gladbach, and it's not just Bayern who are taking players from other teams. Dortmund do it as well. But just obviously, kind of the thing is, whereas Dortmund are picking players who have potential or very, very good potential, but not quite a finished product, Bayern are generally picking up finished products and able to put them straight into the team, and they're impressing straight away, right? So that is an issue. But I honestly, I don't think in terms of the overall team and Bayern, and the Bundesliga across the board, that it makes the whole league uncompetitive. But yeah, Bayern have won 8 league titles in a row, so there's almost, it's very hard for teams to compete in a title race when you are persistently losing your best players to one team in the league. And I mean, one of the things that you mentioned, the Upamecano deal as well. It's a thing in Germany that is frustrating, I think, for a lot of, certainly for a lot of fans, is like the release clause. Upamecano has got a 42 million euro release clause in his contract. I mean, that's for a 21-year-old centre half who's probably one of the up and coming centre backs in world football right now. That's a snip, really. And Bayern are able to pick up these players quite cheaply because of seemingly low release clauses in the contract. I don't know specifically about the Gnabry deal, but if that was another situation where it's a low release clause they picked him up for, that wouldn't surprise me either.
Mm. Well, actually, the bad guys in the Bundesliga are not Bayern, really, are they? It's Leipzig amongst the German faithful.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's an interesting point that we mentioned Leipzig and their web that's going across the world, and the players that they brought in players have came across from New York and from everywhere, and so perhaps it's not Bayern that are the bad guys. It's interesting your point on the release clause as well. Because I almost feel that is that perhaps because the Bundesliga is not just competing, there isn't just an internal competition. They're competing with like the likes of La Liga, with the Premier League, and then arguably to an extent, buying anywhere with Liga 1, with PSG. So I wonder if to get these players into the Bundesliga as opposed to someone like La Liga or at PSG or in the Premier League where the money might be higher from a salary point of view, they've got to, the bargaining chip is no, you've got to put, from the player's perspective, is you've got to put this release clause in, otherwise I'm not going to come because what I see you is more of a stepping stone.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's certainly a fair point. And yeah, it puts clubs in difficult positions. It does, because you want to pick up the talent and have them play for you, and you eventually will sell them for a profit, right? Upamecano it represents a massive profit for Leipzig at the end of the day. But yeah, in terms of trying to be competitive with Bayern, it's not the best business model at all. And I mean, Leipzig don't have a business model that will ever allow them to compete really with Bayern on a regular basis. They might nick it one year, unfortunately, but they buy players young and they sell them. They sell them on generally 25, 26 regularly. So they aren't going to compete with a team who are keeping players finished products at 26, 27, 28, 29 through their best years. They just can't do that. And the release clause contributes to that kind of thing, certainly.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that with Leipzig, because a similar story with Dortmund. We're hearing the likes of Haaland, who has a release clause, and also, the other young talents they have, Gio Reyna, Jadon Sancho, and they're seeing as those two are Bayern's biggest rivals, and their business model is built around buying young and selling high. Is that not a problem for Bundesliga going forwards? Do you not think? Because obviously you're saying how these little clubs are buying from other little clubs and it all feeds up, but surely the gap's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it probably will, unfortunately, and that is, I think, the Bundesliga's main weakness. Is that Bayern are too big for the league at times, unfortunately, and part of my thinking is that there's a small chance that, well, I wouldn't say a chance that it's going to end up like the Scottish League, but there are similarities that I feel like you could at some point draw on between what's happened in Scotland and what happened in the Bundesliga, right? There was a time where Celtic and Rangers were able to pick up like big players, big talented players, to go and play for them, when it was like Paul Gascoigne or Laudrup, example at Rangers, and they went there because I guess the money was still decent on offer, the money was still good. And they were in Europe on a general basis. I mean, Bayern are never not going to be in Europe, but the difficulty is that people pay in terms of the TV rights to watch the Bundesliga, right? Or to pay and broadcast the Bundesliga. If there's no competitive title race every season, that money will dry up a little bit. It's not great for the league. It's also not great for Bayern. Bayern are their own worst enemies in the fact that they are always so much better than everybody else. They can't earn as much money as other teams. Some of the big teams in Europe because of that reason, So I guess they're working it to their advantage. They're just picking up all the talent in their own country where there is plenty of talent.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, do you think anyone can actually stop Bayern? The 50+1 rule exists to kind of stop foreign investors funneling money in. You mentioned Dortmund with their 2 title wins under Klopp, but that was a long time ago. We mentioned Leipzig with their best talents, but with Werner leaving, Upamecano now leaving, Dortmund, similar situation. Can they ever be stopped, do you think, or is it just that is it unstoppable now?
I think they can be stopped. Dortmund are the best. Dortmund are the best chance of stopping Bayern, whether it's next year or the year after. They are the best because they are the only team that can attract top quality talent other than Bayern, really. In the Bundesliga that are a little bit more established. Leipzig do attract good players, but they're nowhere near as established as what Dortmund can attract. For example, everybody wanted Erling Haaland. Everybody wanted to sign Erling Haaland. And even though he's only 20, everybody wanted him, but he went to Dortmund in the end, right? So they can attract good, top quality players. They haven't been that far off in the last couple of seasons, really. It's been down to mentality, really. It's been a mentality issue. And I think a lot of that is down to Lucien Favre as the manager. He didn't exactly exude winning and confidence and that real strength in mentality. Marco Rose is going to go there now. We'll see what he can do with Dortmund. But I think Dortmund are the best chance. I really do. Leipzig are always there and thereabouts. They have the funds to get in a lot of top quality young talent, but they sell it off whenever a decent offer comes in from elsewhere. That's kind of their business model. So to use that model to win titles, I think is difficult. They might win a title, like I said, but not on a regular basis. Then you're looking at other teams like Bayer Leverkusen and Wolfsburg, maybe Gladbach, who are all decent sides. Who perhaps for one season, could put in a real title challenge. But again, they've got the same problem as teams going to pick off their talent over and over again. So I think there is a chance, and I want there to be a chance. Maybe that's why I'm saying it as well. But Bayern are always going to be the team to beat, and you feel that it could be until they slip up. They've got to slip up a little bit for anybody to be able to take advantage of that. There's only 2 points in it at the moment, though, so who knows? Maybe Leipzig can cause a shock. I really wouldn't. I'd rather Bayern win the league, if I'm honest, than Leipzig, though. So.
Yeah, it's interesting what you mentioned around the fact that the lack of investment, say, away from Bayern in the league, say, compared to the Premier League, is what makes it less competitive. But I believe you live in Germany, don't you? I mean, I've been to Germany. I've been to a football game there. It is a different experience, and it is a lot more of a pure experience. And we all watched it when it came back on our screens. I think a lot of Germany fans. I think a lot of the reason German fans don't like Leipzig is just kind of instill that kind of mentality of bringing in this big kind of money to the game and corporations to the game almost, because the corporations do own football clubs in the Premier League. And there's a lot of things we love about the Premier League, but also there's a lot of things that are quite sad about it at times and a bit cutthroat. But it's just a point I want to make. I actually went to FC Cologne. That was brilliant. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I can imagine that's. I've not been, but I imagine that's a great place to go. But that's the thing. That's a great thing about German football. Is that even though there's not a title race, it's German football is so much about the fans and the fan scene and what it means to the fans. They have such a massive voice in the Bundesliga compared to the Premier League. For example, there'll be no Monday games from next season onwards because the fans protested and protested and protested up until the point where the authorities were kind of left to no choice to go, okay, we're going to have to stop this because it's getting too loud now. And the 50+1 rule is massive in Germany. It's really important. It's part of the football constitution here, really. And there are some exceptions. Leipzig are the main one, and I could talk about how Leipzig get everything that's wrong with football for a long time. I don't want to talk about that. So they're kind of the face of the issue. But because they've come onto the scene, I guess the likes of Wolfsburg and Leverkusen have kind of gone under the radar a little bit. They are exceptions to the rule as well because Bayern and Volkswagen have owned them for so long that they can now invest money. Hoffenheim probably not under the radar because of what happens just before the pandemic, where there was all those protests as well, and they stopped the Hoffenheim Bayern game. Players stopped playing and that kind of thing. So it's like that's the beauty of the German football. Really, is that it's even if it's not that competitive, it's not just about that. And it was a shame, really, that so much interest came into the Bundesliga when there were no fans there, because I think had that interest have come when the fans were there, I think a lot of people would have never left, if you know what I mean. They would have had that same love for the Bundesliga that they perhaps have in the Premier League. Premier League can learn a lot from the way that clubs and the fans have voice in the Bundesliga, certainly.
Mm.
So you spoke about what the Premier League fans can learn from Bundesliga in general, and the way City are going at the moment, where everyone's getting steamrolled left, right, and centre. Mönchengladbach actually struggled the other day to really enter City's half, let alone have an effort. Bayern as well, looking really, really good as well, and I think that would be everyone's ideal Champions League final in terms of, well, from the English side and the German side. So the question I kind of have is, who do you think will win Bundesliga? And I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but more to, who do you think will actually win the Champions League? Do you reckon Bayern will topple it again, or will City or whoever, maybe Juventus or someone else, topple them?
Yeah, I think the Bundesliga is an easy one to answer. I think Bayern will win it again. Yeah, I don't think it'll be that straightforward again this year, to be honest, because like I said, there's only 2 points in it really, and Bayern aren't looking amazing. That's the thing this year, that they've not been able to, certainly like more recent weeks or months, they've not been able to brush teams aside as they were at the start of the season when they were scoring a lot of goals. In terms of the Champions League, Bayern, they are the holders. They've got to be in the conversation, definitely. City look amazing at the moment, and I guess everybody's kind of waiting for them to win it at some point, aren't they? PSG will probably be there or thereabouts as well. So I think a lot of it depends on the draw as well. That's always the thing with like the Champions League, is that we can sit here and say who we think the best team is, but depends on who they play at certain times, and that's always the thing with a cup competition like that, or knockout competition, is that the draw might not favour them. If you've got if Bayern have to go and play PSG and then Man City in the quarters and semis, then that's a really tough progression to the final, right? So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the best team in Europe right now, I think you probably have to say City are the favourites. But I would never write off Bayern, because the mentality is just. Yeah, Liverpool call themselves the mentality monster.
I hate that term so much.
Yeah, but if you're talking about teams with that mentality, it's like I wouldn't look beyond Bayern really. They just can't write them off, because there's just that San Mia as well kind of like attitude of just we have to win is so strong. Like, I think perhaps it's almost stronger than some of the clubs at the kind of same level. So yeah, they'll definitely be in and around a conversation, I think, when it comes to the final stages.
Well, Jon, thank you so much. I think that's a good point to wrap up on, a good conclusion. Thank you so much for coming on today, and good luck with the Bundesliga Diaries. We're fans and we'll continue to be so. So enjoy your evening. I know you're out and about, and we'll catch you again another time.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.